if you're watching this another time and haven't met us yet, my name is John Rhodes. This is Bella Crystal. We meet every Thursday at 3 p.m. Mountain Time, 5 p.m. Eastern. That's our new time for Lunar Alchemy. And what's going on today is this is the halfway mark since we began. We began back on February 16th with the programming partner of Gate 29, which is the 30. So when we began, that was fire over fire. And now we've made a full half arc through the entire calendar. And now we're working on water over water. So what that means is that for the remainder of the year, we will be moving through the programming partners of every single gate that we have already worked with. So we've reached a powerful halfway transition point that I'm just really excited to explore and see how this develops in the coming months, because not only the discussion and the contemplation, the expansion into all of the gene keys that we've already covered, but now that we're working with the programming partners of the transits that we've already covered, we're going to be essentially, with each quantum healing transmission, completing a powerful experience of duality within our systems. Not a duality in terms of opposition or anything around that, but in terms of a particular energy that moves through our systems and has its exact complement that is on the other side of the calendar. So this is a symbol for the energy of the sun that is being received and absorbed by the earth. That's where you have the energy of a programming partner. Each one may play the sun role or the earth role. That's sort of unimportant, but the inherent connection between the two, the life-giving force in that relationship, is truly where I believe the sparks of lunar alchemy are going to start to ignite for anyone who has been a part of this process for any period of time. So I know that's kind of a long preamble to what we're talking about today, but I'm really excited about what is going on here. And all of this halfway point discussion is also directly related to my personal journey of life that perhaps we'll have time to get into. I'm about to turn 43 years old, which is the halfway mark of the completion of a karmic period of lunar cycles for a full human lifetime. So a lot of stuff to discuss. I know, Bella, with that type of an introduction, I don't know if you were thinking about those things coming into today about our topic with Gene Key 29 or the transits going on, but I kind of want to just say, and take it away.
I'm probably going to say something unexpected, right? And the fact that Uranus is on the second gene key, which is my life's work, for like years. I mean, it's in Uranus for years, and it's going to be on my life's work for a while. So I think I'm going to be doing some unexpected things, and I'm also going to be, faced with things that are unexpected, which is already, for sure happening. I think that the chart today is super cool. So if I can get the permission to share, that would be.
Let me give that to you again. There you go. All right.
And also so now it looks, you are still recording, but because I wasn't able to record on my own today. But it seems like it's continuing to record. So even
it looks like we're still in good shape, and my other computer is just about online, so I may shift over. We'll see how that goes. So if if the webinar session crashes, that's because I did the other computer. I don't know what's going to happen. Zoom has done some crazy stuff for us lately. So, anyways, take it away, Bella.
You know,
What's
I
going on?
feel, going back to you, kind of starting from the end, going back to you, for me, the 30 and the 29, that's fire and water, and that's Shakti. That's a new element, or it's an element that we are remembering. And we have gone through some of those gates in Leo that has to do with remembering and coming back into empowerment. And that 29 and that 30 is remembering the element of water, fire, water, or water, fire, which is that Shakti, which is that, what I see it very much as, is the sacred waters of the feminine. Like, in more kind of sexual circles, we might call it squirting, but I can see that release, that surrender of the waters that can be moved in the yoni, in the womb. And that's the water that carries life. Because if we don't circulate that water, it's there to hold a child through 9 months of pregnancy, but for me, it's there to be circulated and moved. If the water wouldn't move during these 9 months, that the child would not come out fresh. It wouldn't be able to keep the child fresh and growing from 9 months. So for me, those water are here to move. And going even more into the sexual, since we are not live yet, it's with Anna, we are speaking a lot about female and male ejaculation, and feeling like we have the pendulum kind of is, swinging always. And the way that the focus has been in society on male ejaculation through porn and through the way that we often relate to sexuality, I believe it's time for it to swing back and to see the beauty of female ejaculation, which for me, it's completely, inherent in the 30 and the 20, as they dare to come together and work together and not as opposites. So that feels alive for me. And I don't know how it is, for you to embody that in your activation sequence, but I almost want to let you in here before I actually even continue anywhere else. What does this kind of stir in you, John?
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I love that conversation in particular.
Did we lose John? I think we lost John.
Is about fire water. It is the combination of water and fire into a new formed element. And if you're looking at it from the tantric perspective, at least in terms of a sacred sexual perspective, you were mentioning how our society is kind of focused on the male waters and what would actually be the female fire, which is the ability to receive, absorb, and transmute into a new form. So this is what happens in reproduction. The male organism, no matter what species we're talking about, provides the water, and the female provides the fire that transforms the waters of ejaculation into a new life form. So when we're looking at moving into a new age of, maybe whether you're looking at this is the dawning of the Aquarian age, where the rising of the feminine power is certainly present. We can look at, especially in terms of an inner alchemy of transforming our natures into a more spiritual expression through our physicality. That relationship of water and fire must be reversed in terms of the roles that are being played. The role of the masculine to provide fire, and the role of the feminine to unleash the waters. And in that particular way of looking at things, then sex is no longer a biological necessity. It becomes a pathway for spiritual realization of the true nature of the inner being. when that transformation is accomplished, the conscious choice of reproduction becomes a like a
John, I can't hear you. I don't know why.
then the process of reproduction is going to happen with a union of the masculine and feminine natures within each, rather than simply the masculine providing the water and the feminine providing the fire. It's going to be a masculine with fire and water, and the feminine with fire and water through the union of the physical bodies. And when you generate that type of an energetic connection, the type of soul that is capable of embodying into that biological form now can carry a completely different vibration than what was possible before. So the evolution of humanity, the mutation of the rave calendar, the 2027 gene mutation that is predicted, this topic, Bella, I think is completely tied into this process. And that if there are parenting couples who are practicing forms of tantric transcendence through sexual practices, the first children of this genetic mutation will be created through tantric reproduction rather than the kind of standard biological form that 99.99999 probably forever percent of human beings have been doing for the last 5, 10, 20,000, 100,000 years. I don't know how long it's been going on like this, but there's certainly stories about advanced civilizations 15,000 years ago where it's likely they were practicing this form of spiritual reproduction, consciously inviting specific vibrational souls, a certain way of looking at the birth of Yeshua to Mary and Joseph is centered around some of the mystery schools in Egypt and this particular practice of a tantric connection. Of course, the story, the typical stories about how Jesus was born don't really carry that information anymore. But there are little clues here and there that you can follow that suggest that possibly Joseph and Mary were actually developed they developed themselves for the purpose of giving birth to a very special child who could transform planetary consciousness. So anyways, that's I can probably go on and on about that, Bella.
Me too. I feel like we could do a whole series on it. I thank you so much, and thank you for going into it and explaining it so that we can understand it. And of course you would be a messenger of this, because this is in your incarnation cross, as part of the message that you're here, not only to tell the world, but really to live, because you're a 6-2, so you're here to role model that consciousness. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for recognizing all of those things. It's not always, I find that when we're carrying particular energies that can have such a profound impact on the development of human consciousness, whether it's the 29 and 30 that may exist somewhere in the activation sequence, or the 55 and the 59 working together in different places within the sequence. By the way, 29 and 59 are deeply related, also deeply related to the 7, which we just covered a few weeks ago. it's not always easy to recognize the potential of transformational qualities within oneself as we're living through the process of navigating these shadows and gift experiences. Because when we're experiencing that shadow, it's almost like we are disassociated from the potential of, or the possibilities that are encompassed by these energetic channels. So it's always helpful to have a reflection, and hopefully that's part of what Lunar Alchemy is providing for everyone that's able to watch these. And there, as Bella and I are discussing these topics, you're able to see some of that mirroring effect. And hopefully if some of that is coming up, or there are questions, you're sharing, Kelly, the 29 and the 59 relating, being part of that codon ring. The codon ring is the ring of unity. Is that right, Bella? Nice. Yeah.
The ring of union. So you can see here,
yes.
7, 4, 29, 59, they are coming, they're all together after each other. And that's what's coding. It's coding the ring of union.
Yeah. So it's an incredibly transformational codon ring, where each one really just, it feeds all of the others to become extraordinarily powerful. So if you're working if you want to discover commitment, which is the gift of the 29, you have to be willing to trust your inner guidance, which is the gift of the 7. And maybe Bella, you can connect that to the 59 for me, because my numbers to gifts is I'm not as off the top of my head as I'm sure you are.
I mean, why it's tying to the 7? Well, it's the direction of humanity. And for me, the whole, the legend and the message of Yeshua, it was that seed for a new direction of humanity, a new consciousness in humanity, Sophia Christ embodied. And that's what the 7 is speaking about. It speaks about that direction. But in order for that direction to be able to come into reality, we need to have the forgiveness, the understanding, the commitment, the devotion, and the transparency and intimacy. And then here we're speaking about the codon ring of alchemy. So here there are going to be transmutation of some of those patterns that aren't conducive for that kind of future to be possible. And here we even go deeper into the body and those layers of what we see in the Venus sequence. Here we have those codon rings that are coding for the 7 first years, and the 3 first 7-year cycles, developmental cycles. And there is even a death and a rebirth here what we can see in Scorpio, for us really being able to embody. So this is really a wheel of what I call it deconditioning, where we go deeper into, and where we decondition the layers and work through the things that aren't allowing tantric communion with ourselves and with the other. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, if you think about the gift of intimacy, how can you have that without a wholehearted commitment? At any moment, if the commitment is not if one is not fully honest with oneself and allowing the flow of commitment, then and following through with the cycles inherent in those commitments, then at any moment, intimacy is going to fall apart. There's no way that it can exist without it.
Exactly. And I believe we all have imprints. I mean, that's what we came here for. And the core wound, that's what we are here to help heal or transcend. So that's why, again, it's always going around the wheel where we get to go into the body in Virgo more than anything. We get to go into our relationships, and we go to get that into the underworld, you know. So we're never done. But what I believe that Richard is speaking about is the frequency band, that we can see when that frequency expands, and when we stay more with more stability in the gift of intimacy, of understanding, of union, then kind of completely like struggling in the shadow patterns, maybe, you know. Yeah. So for me, this is a powerful day, because where we started, the 29 and the 30, here we have I would say the two most powerful planetary bodies in the gene keys. This would be our brand or our life's work, the sun, and then Jupiter is both our pearl and our culture, and they are looking at each other in the fire water. You know, they are making tantric love to each other, and that can be, it's kind of exponential. You know, the sun is like shining and it's so big, and Jupiter, the same thing. He's here, he's the king. So I believe that there is a potential for things to kind of come up to the light, but there's also a possibility that things could be exaggerated right now. And we see we have both Mars and Mercury in the 64, which we know is the shadow of confusion. So I believe that some things can come up to the light and be clearer, but there is also this kind of trial and error. We have the 29 in the third line today, and the 30 is also in the third line. So there is a kind of trial and error. Some of us are going to pop up into a higher clarity, a higher frequency of imagination, of inspiration. And possibly because the head center and the Ajna and all the body graph is super open, you know, there is something here. The fire water goes on, like turns on, and we see Mercury and Mars, like in the way we act and in the way we communicate and analyze, there could be confusion. And look here, how powerful, right in this moment as we speak, Moon and Pluto are in 61, psychosis. Confusion and psychosis are there. And if we have it in an open head center, we know that there is a risk for those shadows. So for me, it's a super powerful day, and things are going to come up to the surface. I think we can also, there is a little bit of risk of the tension between Jupiter and the sun too. You know, I think there's a little bit of a risk for overreacting. And I think, where is the fine line between confusion and psychosis and then inspiration and imagination? So super powerful day. What's the, you know, what is the way that you, what's the frequency that you can do this process in? And I would say the last things I kind of would say is that it's Saturn and in Chiron, which have been here for a while. There is, again, this thing about codependency. You know, are you going to, your psychosis and your confusion, like, are you going to allow it to depend on the other, or are you going to come into your own sovereignty, to your own sensitivity, to your own authority? So again, like, it's a new transit, and it's still kind of asking us to come back into our authority, come back into the sensitivity of like feeling and knowing what's there truly. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I was glad you brought up the aspect of trial and error that is going on, because that really speaks to the process of moving through the shadow of half-heartedness. It looks like my computer is finally coming on, but it feels like it's just a little too late. Anyways, you might get a double vision here in a minute. Anyhow, when we look at half-heartedness and the source of where it comes from, it's really going to be about a process of fear happening. And what is that fear of? The fear is about the possibilities that we can't control that are going to arise in response to our choices. So when we commit to a choice, when we are carrying with us some of the fear of the unknown, which if you think about the abyss, what else is there? I mean, the abyss is nothing but the unknown. It's a quality of life that we are unable to control absolutely the consequences of our decisions. And at any moment, some event or someone else's choice may show up and harm us, throw us off course, squash us, destroy us, any type of thing that we might imagine that we don't desire to have can happen, even with the best intentions, even if we have the best intentions. So when we take action with that as part of our frequency of moving into that action, we are automatically in half-heartedness, and we are attempting to discover if our commitment was beneficial or if it was misguided. That's what half-heartedness really is an unwillingness to step forth into a choice regardless of the consequences of that activity, and having the need or the desire to control the outcomes. So when we're in a space of trial and error, we're really playing with half-heartedness all the time. Because if you they often talk about how they went through innumerable failures on their way to one singular success moment that they were able to then lock in and continue creating over a period of time. So when they encountered those failures, oftentimes their attitude was to say, this is not a failure, this is teaching me how to be successful. And that degree of commitment looks at the outcomes of our choices, not through the lens of failure, the possibility of failure, but as a journey into the unknown that can only have one conclusion, which is a total completion of the cycle of experience and understanding that happens through that journey. And once that cycle is completed, then you have a complete package of experience that you can then share with others who are on the path of discovery. That's why the channel of the 29 and the 46 is called the channel of discovery, because it's about stepping into the unknown to discover the pathway through that will lead to the ultimate realization of the completion of that experience. So, I mean, yeah, super powerful process. And I always wonder, I mean, Bella, I'm sure talking about the two is at least as invigorating, you know, as it feels like talking about the 29 is for me. And I don't know if that's just about the life's work sphere or what, but it just feels like maybe talking about that particular energy in our profile can really like goose up your energy for authentic expression.
Absolutely. And I also believe there is something just about elementals. You know, when we speak about the 30, the 29, and the 2, those are three of those 8 hexagrams that have 2 trigrams. There's a purity. So I believe in that purity, there is like a fuel, there's energy, because we're speaking to those 8, which is building the whole I Ching. Like out of these 8, we're getting 64 combinations. So that's for me where, I mean, I feel that often in conversation, it's kind of coming back to to the fire, to the water, to the earth, to those elements, and they are archetypal. So yeah, I feel both that, yeah, for all of us to look at our life's work, and to also recognize that those 8 hexagrams are really powerful, and we can use them for understanding some, you know, some archetypal truths that are there for all of us.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic point, and how it really, to me, underscores how deeply our experience of life is governed by the elements, and why there is so much wisdom in the I Ching, in the gene keys, and human design for us to follow as a pathway, because it's a way of interacting. I mean, we are a combination of elements, and the world is too, that we exist in. So it's not like there's an us in the world. You know, the world is composed of the same elements that we are made of. Our awareness of that, you know, oneness of form, we may not be aware of that, but the elements tell us that all the time. And when we're able to, you know, right now, the abysmal is water over water. So when we are looking at the water element, or when we began this whole process looking at fire over fire, and we haven't been to the 1 yet, but we have been through 2, if I remember correctly, in the first half. So when we hit these pure elements, we can really recognition of what's going on outside of us, and the recognition of what's going on inside of us. And to me, that's really the leap that is required for anyone to move into a spiritual or transformational path, is to begin to recognize that what is inner is reflected by what is outside, instead of making that separation over and over again through every experience that we have. I'm separate from what's happening around me. And when we begin to look at the elements, you know, where does the air stop that we're breathing? You know, like when it moves into our lungs, is the air in our lungs, does that turn into us? Is it part of us? What's going on here? And then, you know, if you follow the air through its process of movement with the plants, it's like, where do we end? If you identify with that breathing process, I mean, you can do that with any element: air, fire, water, earth, all of them. So really, really fantastic. It looks like we're moving into the time period of when we want to do transmission. Bella, do you have any other thoughts on Gene Key 29 or this current energy going on?
Just personally, I have a split in my chart, which means that could bring it up, but it means that my throat and my G are connected, and in my G I have my whole incarnation across my IQ and my EQ. So I have all the closer planetary bodies in my G center together with my throat, and then the rest of my body graph, which is the root, the spleen, and the sacral, are together. And I'm a generator, so this is where I start from, living from my sacral, but I have a split. So it's so easy for me to go in and to be that kind of self-projected projector that is here as a 4-6 to kind of prophesize of like where we're going as humanity. And for me, what I've seen, because the 29, I have a small split. So if I would have gate 29, I would be complete. I would be what we call single definition. Everything would be together. And I believe in my life, because I think there's a little bit of, it's not really trauma that led to hyper independence, but somehow, like, you know, that would be like a little bit of an exaggeration, but there's definitely some kind of, you know, a little bit an independence that it's a little bit too much energy in, that's been there for me. So in my case, I feel possibly and probably on an unconscious level, I have attracted people with a 29. And I have one thing, you know, well, in partnership, whether it's business, intimate friendship, I do really appreciate the other person's commitment to 29. But I also feel like in that kind of my own little bubble with me and me, I have that 29 has, you know, what Ross says, it's like it's going to commit until it falls down dead. You know, that's how the 29 painter goes about it, because it says yes all the way into the abyss. And that's what I can see. Like it's relentless in one way. It says yes, and it doesn't, it's there to the end of the experience. So I do believe that I experience it very much. And since it's not in my chart, I guess I also am here to experience it in so many different ways. You know, there's no fixed way for me to experience the 29, but it's there and it's speaking to me. And I do feel a sense of like completeness when it's there. And I also so the last thing is that if I look astrologically at my MC, what is it? So the MC and IC, I have the 30.6 in my MC, which is kind of that outer, the profession. It's the cusp of the 9th house, of the 10th house. And then the other side of that would be the innermost. And that in that case for me would be the 29. So it's there astrologically, but it's not in my chart. So for me, I mean, I after all, I believe that my life is Tantra, and that is what's not only making me whole again, but that's the process that you are speaking about, you know, not looking for the other polarity outside of yourself, but coming into inner union with the polarities inside of ourselves. And for me, that is the tantric path. And the 64th gene key, where we have Mars and Mercury today, that's after completion. You know, that's the name of it, the kind of mystical, the weird name in the I Ching, but it stands for Tantra. It stands for not ever being complete, but meeting life over and over again, coming into union over and over again. So yeah, I feel like there's enormous power in the transmission of the 29 and what true devotion really is.
Yeah.
And I also feel I'm longing for, you know, beyond words, the transmission of the 29, because like I said before, I know that you're carrying it on a cellular level and you are a transmitter and a messenger for it. So I believe that this transmission is taking on us, like, you know, beyond all this conversation about what it might be, into the experience of what it feels like in all our bodies, from the densest to the more subtle.
Yeah, I really hope so. I mean, in a certain type of way, that really describes the goal that I have with any transmission that we're doing through this process. And you know, one of the challenges of the 29 is in understanding what it feels like to have an authentic, self-honest, natural commitment versus a commitment which arises based upon social pressure, something that arises from outside of us. So, you know, in our society, the pressure to have a marriage that lasts for the entire lifetime, you know, till death do us part, is enormous. You know, no matter how much we may consciously look at it and say, you know, nothing's gonna interfere with this marriage. Like I'm all in for the whole game. And like, how many parents are in their late 30s, early 40s with 2 or 3 kids? Usually one of them's like maybe only 3 years old before the divorce happens. And today, I think much more than maybe 20 and especially more than 40 years ago, people are beginning to recognize that when the cycle of union has completed, the cycle of commitment has completed, that continuing on to force that commitment to be part of the creation is damaging to everyone involved. It doesn't help the kids, it doesn't help the parents, doesn't help the world in which the parents are creating. You know, like, everybody suffers when we don't have an authentic connection to the cycles of commitment that flow through our lives. And so a lot of people are recognizing that ending marriages is sometimes way more beneficial than continuing on. But oftentimes that's a realization that happens after the fact, rather than an awareness that you take with you going into it from the beginning. If you recognize that any marriage, whether it's the relationship, lawful marriage to a spouse, or a marriage not knowing. And when we don't have that awareness, that shadow influence of the 29 comes in and shifts us away from those deep connective commitments that we can make that really transform our own lives and have the potential to transform the world. So today, the transmission is going to be about restructuring the crystalline memory of the failures, the failure to complete commitments, and the inability to allow cycles to end once they have become completed. You know, I lived for many, many years. I knew it was happening while it was going on, but I worked in restaurants as a karmic. I knew it was karmic, but I couldn't get away from it. You know, I was like 27 or something. I was like, I'm done with this. I'm not working in restaurants anymore. And like, sure enough, 6 months later, I was back in a restaurant. And that continued on for like another couple of years, still working in restaurants. And the reason that kept going on was I was unwilling to fully invest myself in it. So the cycle could never be fully completed. Once I fully invested myself in it, I had already done all of the activities required to karmically satisfy whatever this need was in my energetic structure, except fully committing to it. Once I went fully in, like, I am doing this with my whole system. I don't care what other people expect of me or what the situation is. I'm putting my whole self into this and I'm doing it my way. 2 weeks later, I got laid off. The whole thing was over. I've never worked in a restaurant since. It was literally that fast, like magic. And within 6 months, I was in flip-flops on Caribbean islands, like every other day, like living a party life, having a blast. And I mean, that's what the power of commitment can do. It generates quantum leaps in our experience. So that is what we want to clear our water bodies. You know, our body is made of earth. That's the fleshy part of our body that we eat food and it turns into those parts. The water part of our body is the most, you know, the plasma in our blood, all of our cells are permeated full of water. It carries lots of memory. So we want to be able to reorganize that memory to no longer hold the failure of completing cycles. That's when people are unreliable. That's when they say yes to things, but then never follow through. I'm sure you've had people like that in your life. You ask them to do something and they go, oh yeah, I'm all in. And then the time comes and like nothing. It's like crickets out there. Versus the overcommitment style, which is like the cycle is completed, but you continue slaving away at this commitment, trying to, with your activity, just force it to be finished somehow without really knowing where you're headed. So that's what we're going to work on today. How's that sound, Bella? In the ballpark of what we're looking at?
Yes.
Awesome. So this is a water body clearing and activation, which is really about an introduction of a frequency to the crystalline structure of the water that exists within our body. So this particular type of a transmission, because our bodies are so primarily made of water, it can feel extraordinarily pervasive. So as you integrate this, just be aware that you may feel really deep levels of shifting going on, either during the transmission or following the transmission as it's integrated. So these types of transmissions are very, very powerful. And I'm really excited to be sharing this one because regardless of whether or not you have the 29 anywhere in your profile, in your astrology, this particular element, this water element, is really the one that carries your unique essence into the world. And when you have that full-hearted commitment working with you, the world just magically transforms itself to make a space for you and that unique expression. That's why this particular gene key is the gift is called the what is it, the builder of luck. I kind of forget what the exact terminology is, but you basically start to create your own luck. It's as if the world just responds to you and makes things easier for you to make that expression a reality. So go ahead and close your eyes. Oh, take a nice deep breath. Let your body sort of move in a fluid way that allows you to release any tension that may have been accumulating in your body during the day or during this discussion. Just kind of shake it out a little bit and see if you can follow that natural impulse to create a little bit more comfort in your body. Close your eyes and feel into the inner part of your body. Feel into the flow of water you haven't practiced before and you don't really have a sense of what this might really feel like, just imagine the movement happening in your body. Imagine that flow of the waters and the fluids of your body through your vascular system, through your cardio system, that pulsing of blood carrying oxygen and nutrients to every part of your body. And then imagine the flow of the lymph fluids. This is part of the system that helps regulate the internal environment, helping to clear away substances that are no longer needed, byproducts of metabolism. Forms of microscopic life that may not be supporting your well-being. Imagine that flowing through your system. And then get down really, really, really small into your body. It can be anywhere you like. And imagine and focus on a single cell. And just notice how much water is within it, how much water is surrounding it. Imagine that water as if it were the waters of the feminine, the water of the womb that holds the life that grows in the womb. Imagine the water of your body in that way, as if your entire body is just a giant womb for each and every individual cell. Let that relaxation, let that all-encompassing care flood the cells of your body. It is commanded in the presence of divine love and by the golden liquid realms and alchemical powers. End completed cycles as carried within the fluids of the physical body and restructure its memory to the highest frequency potential of wholehearted commitment in resonance with their higher self now. Ta Asia into Doe. If you are sensitive to energies, you may be feeling deep waves of movement through your bodies. With this feeling, you may desire to connect with the fields of color that are coming through. At the very beginning of our lunar alchemy journey, the transmissions began with a violet flame purification, a burning away of the connections to the shadow of desire. And you are now receiving the crystalline liquid entrainment to a higher functioning structure that will be carried as you embody this transmission. The very notion of motivation will fall away as a natural connection to wholehearted commitment begins to effortlessly flow through your system. This opens the unlimited depths of energy that can be found in the sacral energy center. An inexhaustible supply of life force. Feel that energy moving through your system, recalibrating the structure of the waters of your body, carrying that perfected crystalline blueprint. That carries the unique frequency of your essence. As this energy floods your system, you may begin to experience a taste of the frequency of devotion. A never-ending source of absolute connection that obliterates all sense of separation between oneself and your deepest beloved. It is commanded in the presence of divine love that new golden streams of Siddhic consciousness are integrated in the best possible way for each person here from their higher self now. Ta Asia into Doe. So as you receive a flow of golden liquid light through the crown of your head, all the way through your body, let your awareness slowly come back to the room. Begin to become aware of your body and that flow of energy moving all the way through your fingers and toes. And as you're ready, lightly open your eyes and come back to the room. For this particular transmission, it will be very important to drink lots of high quality, high frequency water. You can do this no matter what type of water that you have by spending a little time with the water that you consume, infusing it with an intention that you feel can increase your own frequency in some manner. Simply, as you have a glass of water, you may wish to incorporate a frequency of love. You may choose beauty, clarity, peace, any number of vibrational realities that will assist you with feeling your best. Just spend a little bit of time before drinking that water, programming it with your intention. And if you want to take that process a step further, you may find a nice pitcher or a vessel that you can keep your water in. And when you get that water that's coming out of a faucet system, allow that water to spend some time in that vessel as it untangles its memory of moving through the municipal water system, all of the piping and all of that sort of thing. That's a powerful way to allow that water to move into a more natural state. And then the intentions that you infuse will be more potent within that water. So as you drink water over the next couple of days, see if you can incorporate a practice of infusing water with some of a sense of higher frequency so that it can support this upgrade in structural water inside your body. So that'll be very helpful for the integration of this transmission. Kelly. The 44 and the 26 came alive for me during this. How many times am I willing to go through the death and rebirth process to honor my commitments? How do I need to shift and change to stay in the abyss process without clinging on to what is being left behind? Wow. That is sounds like a powerful observation. And holy harmony. Awesome. Yeah. Hi, Bella. Welcome back.
Yeah, I was just reading as well what Kelly wrote.
I have a feeling you may have some comments about the 44 and the 26, but I wanted to speak specifically about the process of moving through the abyss, because it's my life's work. And how oftentimes when we look at jumping into the field of the abyss, moving into the unknown, of stepping into a process that involves commitment, we can often generate a conditioned response to the inner natural impulse that we are following. So where does this commitment and this choice to step into the abyss even come from? There is a natural movement, a flow of expression that comes through our systems and is manifested through action. And in order to fully experience a cycle that is set in motion by that activity, we must be committed. We must have our full engagement. But we can sometimes, with our conditioned response, allow that commitment to overshadow our awareness of the natural process of that cycle. So how do we learn when a cycle is completed? How do we know when there's more to do? How do we know when our commitment has outlived the cycle of an experience? In my experience, a commitment that is in full harmony with wholehearted commitment generates at least an equal influx of energy that fuels the activity required for the cycle to be completed. That doesn't mean that during a cycle of experience, we don't experience dips of energy or dips of certainty in the process. But when we take a moment to truly connect with the now moment of our activity, rather than trying to focus on the goal of the activity, if that present moment has no sense of fulfilling us with the energy required for that activity, there's a great possibility that we are engaging with a cycle that has either completed itself or we have not fully committed to it. We've always kept a foot outside of the cycle, being unwilling to actually engage in the abyss. So either we have not gone deep enough into it, or we've gone so deeply and not recognized that the depth of our experience is no longer fulfilling for us. So the question is going to be, is my whole body, is my whole emotional system, is my whole mind in harmony and committed with the activity of this experience? And if that answer is yes, then you'll find your way through the abyss. Bella, any comments? I don't know if are we running over time for you?
Yeah, I have another call in 5 minutes, but everything you said, and what I'm going to say is maybe less deep, but my feeling when I tune into you, Kelly, and the 44 and the 26, this is a channel of the transmitter. And it seems like there is a message, you're a messenger for something. And maybe you have to like go over some cycle over and over and over again until you step into that transmitter. Because I see you, I hear you, and at the same time, it's almost like I want to turn up the volume. And I don't know what you do, other than what I've seen you on, in here and maybe on social media. But I feel like you're here to transmit something, and that's what the 44 and the 26 is. So what is the message that you're here to tell? And it feels like a kind of boldness that I don't know what it is, but that would be an inquiry if I were you.
Beautiful. So what's interesting about our current this current cycle going on right now, this transit of the sun through the 29, on Sunday morning is going to be the full moon. And that day is also my birthday, which is why the 29 is my life's work. And so I'm completing the first cycle through 7-year cycles through each line of the hexagram. If you look at a life pattern of completing the hexagram structure as containing one line for each 7 years, which follows along with the concepts that are inherent within the gene keys, with the core, the SQ, the EQ, and the IQ, where you develop these energetic expressions during these periods of your life, 1 to 7, or birth till 7, 7 to 14, 14 to 21. There is, in fact, a further motion of human evolution from 21 to 28 that perhaps will become more visible following the upcoming genetic mutation of the gene keys. But once you've completed 42 years of life, that's a full cycle through every single line, spending a full 7 years in each of these processes. So once you reach that point, then you are now essentially walking over territory that you are already familiar with, which expands the possibilities. And for that to align with me with a full moon for the first year of that cycle, that new cycle, it really signifies a significant transition for me as an individual. And I think in terms of understanding the possibilities that we have in our relationship with the moon, it can really illuminate some of the possibilities of what lunar alchemy is all about. So I believe on Saturday we'll be doing this because I want to make sure that I have a transmission available for in preparation for that full moon, which will be on Sunday morning. So keep your eyes peeled for an email with that. I'll be doing that live on social media, and we'll hope to engage as many people as possible in that. So, anything else, Bella? I think I'm complete.
I have to jump.
Well, thank you all. I'm sending you all divine loving presence from my heart to yours. We'll see you next time.
Bye.